Red lights are about to be turned on then for the 15-minute race for the Protech Shock Sports Specials Championship. Away we go. Not a great start from Paul Collingwood from the outside of the front row, so I think it's Andy Hiley that has the lead. There's one car at the back that's not got away. But having said that Paul Collingwood didn't get a great start, he is going with Andy Hiley. It looks like the 64 car of Anton Lanton is third. That's Stephen Wells going around the outside. Oh, one or two off there, including the number 12 car of Peter Robinson, the man from Sutton Coldfield, having a spin in his Silver Striker.
And there's Anton Landon, 64, leading this group of cars through. Colin Childs, he's moved into one of the Rob Johnston Cylons for this year, hasn't he? Notice there, car 13 going well up in the order. There's 18, one of the Class B cars. Colin Benham, long-standing driver within this category, but it's Andy Hiley that leads, but Paul Collingwood in the tow as they head off towards the left-hander at Brundle. Collingwood in the Eclipse, chasing after the Kronos. There's one of the Mevs. That's the Stuart Much car, the quickest of those cars. He's just ahead of Chris Pike, the driver who won the Class B championship last year, moving up into Class A. More battles in the pack. 15, that's one of the Caterhams. That's Chris Kirby losing out to Colin Benham, who we saw a moment ago. Yeah,
Colin Benham, the 2013 champion in sports specials, but there's the 2019 champion, Andy Hiley. He's got a bit of daylight now between himself and Paul Collingwood in the Eclipse, hasn't he? As the rest of the field all making their way through. 62 there, you can see going through shot Marcus Roskill, the Hungerford driver, in his Silver Phoenix, but over the line go the leaders now. Great sight and sound all of these cars make as they blast over the start and finish line here. There is the 74 car of Steve Wells. It's the SEWC Motorsport Sub-Zero, it's described as, and it's a chassis designed by Rod Ogilvie and upgraded by SEWC Motorsport.
He's been passed within the class by Rob Johnston, who I was mentioning earlier, and who's dropped down a class. He's been overall Class A driver for a number of years, but Rob Johnston running his Sayana in Class B this weekend.
He's been third in the championship on a couple of occasions as Rob Johnston overall, in 2018 and 2016 as well.
There he is, going up the inside.
Yeah, so that's Rob Johnston, number 82 from the West Midlands. Turning his way out front of Nelson, and a similar sister car, if you like, behind it, of Colin Charles then. So those two having swapped places.
I think Colin Charles going well with this new car to him.
Yeah, absolutely. So it shows that it's a competitive car, certainly, but it's not quite as competitive around here as the Kronos of Andy Hiley, which continues to lead, is getting away from Paul Collingwood, number 11, in second place as they come through towards the end of lap number 2. There's, I think that was Stuart Much, wasn't it, in the Mev, in about 9th position.
See, just behind Steve Wells, or ahead of Steve Wells now, sorry, is another car, a driver with a new car. That's Stuart Thompson in the former championship winning MK Indy, drove by Matthew Boove in previous seasons, and Thompson up into the top 6. He raced a Caterham last year.
He did, didn't he? So there's Roskill, and he has number 18, which is Colin Benham behind him. We've mentioned him a couple of occasions already during the course of this race, and been flapping from the back of his car. Anyway, 18 Benham going through on the inside of number 62 Marcus Roskill up into 11th place, trying to follow through there as well is 52, the Caterham Supersports car of Chris Kirby as well. You can see some of the Caterhams out racing with the sports specials here this weekend.
Trying to get the tow down the Bentley straight to try and also get a place past Roskill with that flappage at the back, which must be a bit distracting following it, I should think. And behind the pair of them is Sam Callahan, who's out in the Tadec.
Yeah, Sam, probably best known originally for his appearance on X Factor a few years ago, and something of an Instagram star these days as well. But he's going well at the moment in 14th position. So they're turning their way through. Meanwhile, the leader's already completing another lap, but a bit further down the order. Some good scraps to be had. There's the 65 car then of Martin Hayward, 18 Colin Benham behind him.
And there into Murray, slipping through Chris Kirby ahead of Marcus Roskill, but I'm not sure the Caterham's quite got the power to hold him back down the straight.
It doesn't look like it, does it? It does look like they're going to swap it around again, and I think they have done already, in fact. Callahan just behind. There's Stuart Much, number 7. He's up to 7th place now, so he's made up a little bit of ground. In fact, that's 6th now, isn't it? He's got ahead of Stephen Wells too.
Chris Pike isn't making the improvement he would have liked in the Class A car. He's got further back, really, than he was when he raced a Class B machine.
Yeah, one of the Pro Comp LA Golds. So it's just interesting to see how things develop.
Here are the two drivers having new cars to them, having their debuts in these cars, and they switch around. Stuart Thompson in the EMP Indy going ahead of Colin Childs in the Sienna.
Yep, and that's a good move there, having been made by Thompson. So number 30 now up into 5th place as he heads through the bomb hole once again. But he's starting to put a few car lengths between himself and Childs. He's got about 4 or 5 seconds to make up there on Rob Johnston now ahead of him in 4th place.
New fastest lap for Andy Hiley up front, 1 minute 20.68 already.
Not as quick as his own lap record, which is a 1:19.26.
But now Paul Collingwood goes quicker, 1 minute 19.30.
Oh, that is quite close to that record there.
And he's getting closer to Hiley, which is good to see after a dominant qualifying session from Hiley in the dry. Collingwood absolutely able to go with Hiley. And Anton Landon not falling too far away either.
He's not, is he? So this is a really strong performance from Anton. He's been a long time campaigner in Sport Specials, but not often on the podium. He has been in the past, but good to see that he's running well up the order here. Bit of a lonely race for him just at the moment, though.
In Class B, it's Rob Johnston now that leads by quite some way, over 10 seconds from Steve Wells, and then Martin Hayward going well in 3rd position within Class B.
Yeah, so and Chris Pike there we can see with Steve Wells. I don't think his transponder's quite working properly either, because it's not showing on our timing screens at the moment.
Colin Childs there trying to get back past Stuart Thompson, unable to do so though into Brundle.
Yeah, so they head out of Nelson down towards the bomb hole, fighting for what will be there for 6th and 7th positions, won't it? No, sorry, 5th and 6th positions. Correction, because yes, Chris Pike is behind them until he's, I think, briefly missing from our screens.
Race leaders into lap traffic now as they cross the line. The gap's down to half a second now for the lead. So Paul Collingwood is chasing Hiley, who might have got caught up in the traffic perhaps a little bit. But we shall catch up with them. Here they are, going through the traffic, up the inside. Andy Hiley being chased by Paul Collingwood. That's the Peter Robinson Silver Striker, much older car there that they lap. The only Eclipse now left in the championship. Paul Collingwood chases after the leader, Andy Hiley.
Yeah, no Paul Boyd or Martin Gambling, both of whom are front runners and took 5 race wins between them last season here at Snetterton this weekend at least. But look at this, good fight going on for the lead. Hyde and Collingwood down towards Brundle and Nelson. Around about halfway through this race now. We are about to complete lap number 6, so it's probably going to be an 11-lap race, I suggest, for the Protech Shock Sport Specials. And Collingwood there in the number 11 car, the man from Gainsborough, giving Hiley, the Yorkshireman, quite a good run.
It's good to see, isn't it? We've got these two competitive cars at the front of the field on this 6th lap of the race, heading into Murray's, about to complete another lap. And Collingwood quick through that sequence of corners and get back onto terms with the Kronos, which I think is a longer car than the Eclipse that chases it. They blast across the line and pass us for another time and head off down in towards Richie's corner as they get in away now from Anton Landon, who's slipped 6 seconds back, but I think he's comfortably ahead of the rest still.
Wheel arch there from someone's car on the side of the road at Rich's. Collingwood here still really close to Andy Hyde, isn't he? So not necessarily what we're expecting based on qualifying times. Oh, and Marcus Roskill's had problems. It looks like something's broken on the front suspension, doesn't it, on the number 62 car, I'm afraid to say. The Silver Phoenix out of the race. It's just parked straight on there at the end of the Bentley Straight.
It's somewhat in the firing line, isn't it? So race officials will be looking at that and they'll have some reports and trackside about how close that is to the circuit. It's hard to tell from this camera angle really, because it's a very long shot all the way to that incident. It'll be a hard car to move by manpower, I suspect, with a broken corner on the car. Yeah,
we have got 5 laps to go, 4 laps to go probably at the end of this one scheduled. Well, there's a bit more of a gap there between Hiley and Collingwood, isn't there? It was 7/10 of a second. It looks like it's gone out to over a second. Well, another car pulling off there now is the number 12, Peter Robinson. So he's decided to call it a day. He'd already been lapped, of course. So he's out of the race as well now.
Class B still being led by Rob Johnston. over Steve Wells and Martin Hayward, but Hayward under a lot of pressure from Colin Benham. So 65 and 18, third and fourth within Class B, having a good battle.
Good to see number 10, Nigel Brown, out. A long time stalwart for about 35 years, I think, now in kit cars and sports specials. He's out there in car number 10 in his silver phaser, and he is in 12th place now, so ahead of Sam Callahan. He's moved in front, but here that was the leader just toving into view there. And
Harley now in the 18s, 1 minute 18.41. He's gone significantly quicker, so that's a new lap record.
Yes, that's more than a second better than he's done before. Here's Stuart Robinson with Stuart Much now right behind him. This is for 4th and 5th position, isn't it? So this is a really interesting battle that's developing here.
Yeah, Much has come through the field nicely recently, got ahead of Colin Childs not that long ago, and he actually blast past in a straight line. The car of Stuart Thompson, so that puts Much into 4th, but I think that'll be as far as he can get. Where has Rob Johnston gone?
He's dropped down the timing screens, hasn't he? He's not come through.
So that's the Class B leader, presumably after the race.
Which would promote Stephen Wells, wouldn't it, in the Sub-Zero into the Class B lead. There's the Class C leader, Stuart Much.
And noticing here in as well, Colin Benham's got ahead of Martin Hayward, what will now be for second within Class B.
Okay. So you've got Stuart Much in that idiosyncratic-looking MEV MX150R. Had a win, didn't it, at Silverstone in the extreme wet conditions last August.
Yeah, I think because he runs within Class C, you can use different tyres, can't he, to the main part of the championship, and that helped him to that, but good drive nevertheless. Across the line they come. What kind of lap time does Stuart Much do? 1:21.8. So he is slower than all the three leaders despite working his way through the order.
I think it's the first time as well since we've had this class structure that we've raced on the 200 circuits. There's no lap record as such for his class.
There's Stuart Thompson getting used to this MK Indy with, I imagine, a fair bit more power than the Caterham that he raced last season. That he was always competitive within Class B, wasn't he? Just got the single win, but was always up there on the podium.
Well, he was sort of right in championship contention, almost to the end, wasn't he? Despite not having had any wins right until the end, as you say, which was quite remarkable. Here's a battle going on. It's Chris Pike and Colin Childs, and it's Chris Pike that's gone through, up in 6th place there. Yeah, now in a Class A car, of course, as we were saying, as is Colin Childs. Sam Callahan there has been lapped by the race leaders, about to be lapped by Paul Collingwood as well, but Collingwood now about 2 seconds adrift.
Yes, Collingwood's got to slip his way past these couple of cars. There, Callahan and Andrew Hayward, and he does so without too much of a drama. As we say, not really close enough to get to Andy Harley anymore after that good burst in the middle of the race. The next car for the leader to lap is the Caterham, I think, the car of Christopher Kirby, who runs in 12th position overall.
It's great to see a championship like this where you do have a real variety of chassis design, bodywork. The looks of the cars are also different as well, and the pace as well, but it makes some proper good club racing. This does the Protech Shock Sports Specials Championship, and so many different cars eligible for it as well.
Yeah, kit cars too, you can build quite easily, I think, if you know what you're doing in your garage, so a fairly cost-effective way to go sports car racing.
Or a Caterham, as we've seen, would be eligible as well in the right specification too, and you can pick those up relatively easily.
There's lots of them, aren't there?
There are, and I'm sure we'll see more out with the championship as things goes on.
Callahan under quite a bit of pressure here now from Andrew Hayward, who tried to draw alongside Aaron Murray, so it didn't quite work, but that's a good battle the two of them are having. Up towards Ritchie's, here comes Hayward up the inside, but Callahan closed the door. Callahan was on the podium here in the Sports Race and GT races here last season in the wet. And I think he went quite well in qualifying in the wet again this morning.
Yeah, we're coming towards the end of the race there. We'll probably get one more lap after the end of this one, won't we? I would think, as Andy Hiley makes his way along the straight now. His next target for Lappery is going to be Nigel Brown, but he's got Collingwood right with him again, hasn't he?
Yeah, 1.5 seconds has disappeared pretty quickly. So Hiley did that one really quick lap, but hasn't been near that pace any other point in the race, which is a bit strange, because with Collingwood so close to him, I wouldn't imagine he's sort of set in this particular pace.
No, not at all. So a lap to go, I think, at the end of this one, which will actually make it a 12-lap race. I don't think we'll quite get up to the 15-minute mark before the end of this lap. And Nigel Brown, a very experienced driver, so he ought to be able to not make it too difficult for the leaders to get past him. Collingwood actually loses a bit of time, I think, on the way out of Murray's there. So Brown lets the leader go past, and now, well, that's handy for Heide because he's now got a car between himself and Paul Collingwood for the time being. Is that Collingwood's car that all of a sudden emitted smoke? Not quite sure why. There's a bit of residual greyness coming out of the back of that car as he now does get past Nigel Brown, but I suggest this might blunt his challenge in the last 3/4 of the lap.
Shame, because that's been a good run up to now. But last lap of the race, let's hope he can get the car to the end. Anton Landon there in third, 15 seconds away. And Stuart Much is still ahead there, or Stuart Thompson in fourth and fifth positions. And within Class B, it's still Steve Wells that leads since Johnson went missing. He's 10 seconds ahead of Colin Benham and Martin Hayward third, and Chris Kirby in the Caterham fourth.
Okay. So we are coming up towards the end, and it looks like Andy Hiley is going to add then to his 6 race wins from 2019 with a victory in the opening round of the 2020 Protech Shock Sport Specials Championship. First of 2 races here today for these cars, but it's not been easy. He's felt the breath down his neck from Paul Collingwood, that's for sure. Checkered flag is made ready then, and a win for Andy Hiley in round 1 of the 2020 Protech Shock Sport Specials Championships in car number 53. Second goes to number 11. That was Paul Collingwood. Third over the line eventually will be Anton Landon, but we've got some of the back markers coming through. Yes, Landon sort of was well behind, wasn't he? The 2 leading cars. Here he is now in third position in the number 64 Sienna Mark II. And then in turn, it's going to be about another 20 seconds back, I think, to Stuart Much in fourth, Josh. The
first podium, I think, for Anton Landon for over a season. So he'll be pleased with that. He finished 7th overall in the championship last year, but he was more consistent rather than being up there right at the sharp end. So first podium for Anton Landon in over a year. So he'll be pleased with that. And then across the line there goes Stuart Much in fourth position. And did Stuart Thompson hold on to Chris Pike? I think he did. Pike's one of the cars where the transponder isn't working fully, so that car will be put in manually in a bit. And then Colin Childs come across the line. Yeah, Thompson just beat Pike by 3/10 of a second. Childs in 7th, and then Steve Wells will come through to win Class B. And I would suggest this will be Steve Wells' first victory in circuit racing within his class. So good stuff from him. Wells, who started off in low cost and now moved into sport specials over the last season or so.
Yeah, no, I think he'll be very pleased with that performance, especially having changed the weight of the car, so it would go into Class B for this season to be rewarded with a Class B victory over Colin Benham and Martin Hayward. So quickly running down the results, 53, Andy Hiley taking the win from number 11, Paul Collingwood in second place. Third place to number 64, Anton Landon. Fourth place, number 7, Stuart Much. In fifth place, number 30, Stuart Thompson. Sixth to number 25, Chris Pike. Seventh to number 13, Colin Charles. Eighth to number 74, Stephen Wells. Ninth, number 18, Colin Benham, and 10th was number 10, Nigel Brown, with Andy Hiley, Stuart Much and Stephen Wells taking their respective class wins. We'll see the Sport Specials Championship out again at around about 2:30 this afternoon. Still another 3 races to come before we have a lunch break here. Don't forget you get the timetable online, 750mc.co.uk, and download the digital programme. So 3 races before lunch. We've got the Demon Tweaks Yokohama Classics.Cats Championship coming up next, which won't have Andy Philpotts in it due to an untraced oil leak. Thanks to Paul Forbes for getting that information to us.
That is a car I can actually see out of the commentary box window.
Okay, well, so you know it's not going to start the race. The Yokohama Mazda 7s and the Tikiwa Type R Trophy, the other 2 races that we have coming up before the lunch break. But there is Andy Hiley, our cameraman with his nose to the ground. He slots into position. So let's head down once again to Anthony Jordan.
Andy, well done.
Thank you.
What a race that was. A pole and a win. I would say that was a great start to 2020.
Yeah, that worked out pretty well. Totally different feeling, quality race. Had to learn the track come the race, so the first 2 laps were a bit of a, how can I go here? I don't know how quick this car is round here, so yeah, we found out in the end. Can you? You can hear me, can you?
Oh yeah, we can hear you. Don't worry about that. Well, again, a fantastic race all the way throughout. You're having a cracking race with Paul Collingwood for the majority of it. The last lap, though, you wouldn't have seen it. His engine went pop at the end, a big plume of smoke. Yeah, he fell back quite a bit, but throughout the race, it looked like such fun to race
Well,
in.
I mean, yeah, really good tussle. They were pushing me all the way. I thought, yeah, there's bits where he's quicker than me, and I don't know why. So I'd have to learn what I'm doing wrong. But I'm a bit disappointed to see his engine's gone.
Yeah, so it looked like it made it to the end of the race, but yeah, a big plume of smoke. We're not sure what it was, but he did get to the end of the race, though. But yeah, an amazing looking car itself. Watching it go round, it looks like you've put a lot of work into it.
Yeah, there's a lot of work into it. My friend, who's sadly passed away, helped me build it year before last, and yeah, we just try and keep it as tidy as possible. So respect him.
Yeah, well, a win for its first trip out in 2020. I'm sure he'll be happy with that.
Yeah, I'm sure he will. Thank you.
Well done.